Welcome to Navigating the Nervous System. My name is Kristen Cronin Boone, licensed therapist, professor, and writer. Do you ever wonder why you do the things you do? The answer might just be your nervous system. Come with me as we explore this incredible system and how it drives your thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Let's navigate the nervous system together. Welcome to Navigating the Nervous System, Episode 5, The Social Network. We are going to talk today about social conditioning. We have worked our way through our nervous system states: safe, stress, shutdown. We've talked about tiny tigers and external triggers. We've talked about rewiring our brain with thoughts and physical sensations. And we've talked about the parts that play a role inside of us that are the voices in our head, but not necessarily us, and how to differentiate those. And today we're going to talk about one other very important element that is at play with our nervous system, and that is social conditioning. We are wired for belonging. We are a social species, and it is very important to us to feel like we belong. And the reason is, for most of human history, our survival depended on us being part of a group or a tribe, because we were out in elements that were dangerous, and we needed groups to be able to take care of our young, to find food, and people with different skills. And so being part of that group is what helped us survive. And so we are wired to think of rejection from the social group as an actual threat. We have even seen that there are studies that have shown that social pain, like rejection or embarrassment, lights up the same regions in the brain as physical pain, because it activates a similar alarm system and puts us into that fight or flight or shutdown mode, just like a physical threat, or just like those emotional triggers that we were talking about before. Some of the ones we have been talking about may fall into this social conditioning, so you can look at that. The autonomic nervous system, our fight or flight, it's really powerful, but it's somewhat simplistic. It does everything so fast that it doesn't allow for a ton of complex nuances to tell us something's not a threat. It just says threat or not threat. And so even if there's a little bit of worry there, it can automatically make something that really shouldn't make us as stressed out as it does become a stressful event, and over time create a narrative that certain things are a problem. When we over time get these messages, this thought and physical sensation that goes together about certain things, we start to mold ourselves after those beliefs. And this may look like toning down who we really are, or what we really feel, or what we do, or forcing ourselves to do things we don't want to do because of that fear of being rejected by the group. And again, this keeps us in those stress or shutdown spaces because we're not integrated with our whole true self, and that self that has those C's we talked about in the last episode of being calm and creative, because we can't allow ourselves the creativity that we want to allow if it doesn't fall into what we believe to be right or wrong based on society. So one example of this might be the stereotype of, let's look at the male stereotype of kind of being macho or not showing emotions. And I think this is slowly changing. I hope it is. I know I'm trying to do that work with my son. But there has for a long time been, men don't show emotion in public or cry, or the only acceptable emotion might be anger, right? They're justified in their anger, or boys will be boys when they, get angry or destructive occasionally, as opposed to, men are allowed to have the same range of emotions as anyone else. That doesn't mean we can behave in every way we want, but showing crying in public or affection or, understanding even when they're frustrated has not always been around because it hasn't been accepted to the point that I worked in the film industry and we would joke about the one manly tier. You see the big, strong guy in the action movie and something happens, he can't save someone. And what do? They like move in and you see that one shiny tear coming from his face because that is in some ways all we've allowed. Whereas there's literally a gif of James Vanderbeek from the show Dawson's Creek, like sobbing, and it's just a guy sobbing, like ugly crying, and it's made fun of, even though I'm pretty sure every human has ugly cried at least once in their life. And so it's just trying to realize that by doing this, then boys who grow into teens, who grow into men, might be stuffing down those emotions because they are afraid of rejection from the group. And that is going to keep them in stress or shutdown. And what does that do? That keeps them in protect mode instead of connect mode. And that's not just not good for them. It's not good for their partners or their families. And I am not by no means saying that everyone does this. And there's a lot of nuance, but that could be one of the social conditioning messages that forces someone to shape who they are over time. That is not a healthy adaptation to what they really could be bringing to themselves in the world. Another way you might see this is when you force yourself to do something to look a certain way. Well, we have to, my big thing was always like, I kind of felt like, oh, I have to make it look so nice for the holidays, for the pictures with my kids. And then, after a couple of years, you're like, oh my gosh, you're spending a whole weekend putting up Christmas lights. And then you're stressed about getting everything done. And we kind of sat down one year. I was like, what is important to us? What feels good to us? And what do we enjoy? And, we had our little list, our tree. I like the garland. I like a little bit of lights. Like, that's it. And then you have more time to actually enjoy it with your family versus worrying about what it looks like all the time. That's another thing we can fall into. Or, when you find yourself saying, well, we have to do this. Well, we have to bring a thing to the party, or we have to show up 10 minutes earlier. We have to do this, or you should really say this to that person, or you really shouldn't say that out loud, honey. Those kind of things, you need to question why. Why should I? Why do I have to? And then find out if it aligns with your values. Maybe it does, and that's great. Well, we should bring a housewarming gift. Okay, why? Well, because they were so helpful with us, and I want to show my gratitude to them when they're now going through like trying to get their new place set up. Awesome. That aligns with your values. But if it's like, well, we should because everybody else is probably bringing one, even though we don't have the money, and I'm sure they're going to get plenty of bottles of wine. Like, no, you know what? You don't know them that well. Just because you think you should doesn't mean you have to, right? Question why you should. Question why you have to. And if it aligns with your beliefs, then great. But a lot of us go through life without asking that question. And it puts us in stress. It puts us in shutdown. It puts us in debt. It puts us in conflict with our partners who are like, why do we have to do this? We don't need to do this. You don't even care about these people, right? We need to really just ask why we're doing the things we do. And that's not to be like, well, we shouldn't have to do everything we're already doing. Like, take care of yourself and no one else. No, it's because it reserves your nervous system and your energy for the people that deserve it. Your friends, your family, your partner, the job that you care about doing a good job at so you don't get burnt out. That is why. And yes, there will be times that you have to do the thing you don't want to do, right? I hate doing bake sales. Okay, but I haven't helped out at school, and I do think it's the right thing to do for my kid's school is great to my kid. I need to show up and do this. Yeah, that's a need to or a should because it aligns with your values and you want to model supporting the environments and groups and community that supports your kid, even if it's not your favorite thing in the world. But are you doing the fourth bake sale of the year because nobody ever shows up and you're the one they always call? And that's why, because you don't know how to say no. That is another question to kind of test if you are caught up in social conditioning. The theory is kind of that if you never say no, you might be pretty heavily social conditioned, because that means you're trying to meet all these other expectations and maybe not your own and your own needs. And that is not sustainable. Now, maybe you don't have to say no a lot because you've already set your life up with a balance of boundaries and knowing what you can handle and taking care of yourself and your family and your job and all that stuff. And that's great. But oftentimes I find people in either one or the other. They're either never saying no and they're really stressed out, or they kind of get into rebellion of, well, I'm not going to do that just because of this. I already pay for this. I'm not going to help out with that. And it's almost like a based on principle, I'm not going to do something. And then the question becomes, well, does that align with your values? Because I love the way Glennon Doyle, who's an author and has the podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, she says, rebellion is just another cage, right? Social conditioning can feel like a cage. I have to do the thing that I'm told to and trained to do, even though it doesn't feel natural to me. Rebellion can be the opposite, right? Well, I'm never going to do this thing, and we're not going to celebrate in this way because that's a Hallmark holiday or whatever. Well, maybe your partner likes a card on Valentine's Day, right? Whether it's a Hallmark holiday or not, right? And if we just rebel, then we're not taking into account connecting with our partner or, our kids on what they actually want. And if it does fall into the Venn diagram of a Hallmark holiday, it doesn't mean you're, being brainwashed. It means you asked the question and you connected, and then you do the thing that you feel is good for your partner and you. This can be in relationships a lot. Like, you grow up thinking, however the role you feel assigned to is a wife, a husband, a partner, a mother-in-law, whatever it is you feel like you are. And you're like, well, this is what I need to do. And so just ask your partner, ask your daughter-in-law, how can I help? What do you feel like would be great for a mother-in-law to do in this situation? Like, let's figure this out together, because I'd really like this as a grandma. And what do you want, from the grandparents? And let's then find the Venn diagram of what works for both of us, versus assuming what we want or what they want are going to line up and then having a lot of conflict. Ask why, and ask what the people need, what other people need. Ask what you need and tell people. And then the last thing I would say about that saying no is you learn to do this and be like, no, I have helped out at 3 bake sales this year. I'm not going to show up at the 4th one. I got too much going on. You have to learn how to not only say the first no, but hold the boundary. And I do find a lot of people have a hard time with that second thing. You know what? You tell your kids, oh, we're not going to do this. You're not going to stay out past 10, even if the other kids are doing it. And then your kid calls crying, but everybody is staying here. Holding the boundary. Oh, fine. Just 30 more minutes though. Oh my gosh, only 30 more minutes. And then it happens again. You say, no, I am so sorry. This is hard. I'm coming to get you. You need to be outside because I know you don't want like a scene. I don't want to have to come in. You got to be outside. And you deal with those emotions of that kid feeling, not part of the group, but you did something that aligned with your values and kept them safe, and that is okay. It doesn't mean it's easy. Do not choose easy. Choose what's right. Holding a boundary is hard, and that is part of breaking social conditioning, is not just going, oh, that's easy. I can tell. You're right. I'm going to do what I want to do. But then people push you on it. No, are you sure you don't want to do this? You sure you're not going to stay? You sure you're not going to help out? Oh, you're not going to be at the bake sale. We're going to miss you so much. Okay, fine. You don't hold the boundary. And it's okay to understand why. It feels uncomfortable. It feels threatening. And so just be sure of what you want. And I'm going to give you a little trick. If you're not good at no, say, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Let me get back to you. Your kid's asking you in front of their friends if they can stay later. I don't know. Let's talk about it at home. Okay? Yeah, let's talk about it at home. They're asking for the bake sale again. Aren't you going to come? I don't know. And then you text the PTA person again. Nope, not coming. Thanks again for the invite. Delay it until you have a moment to get up into that safe state, and then you can say no and hold your boundary. Because in the moment, that fight or flight response is going to give in to keep you safe. But if you can learn to train yourself at least to delay, if not hold the boundary in the moment, you'll have time to regulate, step away from the threat, and hold the value that is important to you, for your family, for your nervous system. This is really hard the older you get, because years and years and years and years of this have made you might not even be thinking about why you do things. And I'll have couples or people come in or individuals come in for therapy, and they're like exhausted by this, this, and this. And I'm like, well, why are you doing these things? And at first it's so obvious. Well, yeah, I have to do this. And I go, okay, do you? Because we have a body budget. Okay, just like we don't have all the money in the world, we do not have all the energy in the world. And when we give it away to other people that doesn't align with our purpose and our beliefs, we're giving it away for free, because we're not getting anything back. And I don't mean like someone else helping us back. I mean that fulfillment or meaning in our life, that we are doing stuff. Even if I don't want to do the stupid bake sale, I will feel probably pretty good about it when it's done, because I know that I supported a community that supports my kid. But if I feel abused and taken advantage of by that community, that's going to actually give me negative feelings about the community, even if it's not their fault. They're just trying to get someone to do their stupid bake sale. And so it is up to me to protect my body budget, so that when I do give what I have to give, it is meaningful, it is positive, and it is uplifting. The last thing I will say is this also comes down to making some decisions about who you are around. If you are in groups that really value social conditioning, whether that looks like what you wear, how you act, what you do, meaning like spending money or going out drinking, or how the parents, let their kids go out or do things or don't do things, you're going to have a much harder time sticking to your values if you surround yourself with people with conflicting values. And this is not about judgment at all. People can choose a lot of different ways to live that are all fine. It's about what matches your values, and not just because you were raised a certain way and not because that's what your friends are doing, but what you, your kids, your partner, your family of choice decide is the right thing for you. And it's hard at first, but when you really figure out a system of going, yeah, this is right, and even though it's uncomfortable, we're going to do it anyway, or nope, this is not important to us, this just drains our body budget bank account, and we're not going to do that. We're going to stay in tonight and have fun together and uplift and recuperate so we can give to the world tomorrow. That is what's going to keep your nervous system in this balanced, safe state the most. I really challenge you to look at your life and see how often you're saying should, how often you're saying have to, how often you are or are not saying no, and ask why. And start with something small. Start with saying no to staying late for work when you're not getting paid. Start with, saying no to bringing snacks to the soccer team 10 times in a row when no one else has participated. Sneak a juice box in your own bag for your kid if no one brings any. But don't feel like you have to go out of your way to drain yourself when you've already done what you feel like is right. And save your energy for meaningful, powerful connection to keep yourself in that connect state. Okay. I'm going to give you one last thing for this series to balance your nervous system. That has to do with other people. I want you to know about the 20-second hug and the 6-second kiss. Now, obviously, this would be with people you already feel safe with, but it's something we don't spend enough time doing, is hugging and connecting with our family, our friends, our loved ones. And the Gottmans, who are a famous couples research, relationship research, married duo, actually, they had done research for years on relationships and found that at 20 seconds of a hug, we release oxytocin, and it is so good for our nervous system. And if you do it And after like 10 or 12 seconds, it might be like, okay. But if you keep going at around 20, you'll actually feel it. You'll feel this relaxation, kind of like you do when you do after a couple rounds of box breathing, you feel this, but it's even stronger because it's oxytocin, and it's the love hormone is what oxytocin is. Or if you're in a partnership and you want to kiss your partner, kiss for 6 seconds, because that is where the oxytocin hits, according to their research. This kind of a, physical touch is actually very important as a social species, and within what you're comfortable with. And we all have different levels of tolerance for touch for different reasons. But yeah, hug those kids, hug those partners, hug those friends, 20 seconds. Or if you are someone who wants to, try the 6-second kiss with your partner to help regulate yourself and feel safe and focus on the connection with those people who value who you are, to get you stronger, to take care of yourself and say yes to the things you want to say yes to and no to the things that you don't. Thank you so much for joining me. This is it for the series of 5, and I am going to come back really soon with some great interviews. And until then, thank you for navigating your nervous system with me. Follow the podcast, and I'll be back. Thank you.